Hello everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. I did this 5 or 6 years ago and I really haven't done it again. But if you can see, I have a whole lot of eggs in this bowl. What I'm gonna try doing again is to preserve my eggs in slaked lime or hydrated lime. There's a whole lot of different names for it. But when I did this before, I kept those eggs for, it was over 8 months. I don't even remember how long, and they lasted very well. Last year we got no eggs during the winter. We got some new hens, so we probably will get some, but I don't want to go all winter without my farm eggs again. So I decided I was going to preserve them. We're getting 8 to 9 a day on average, and that's more than we're using. So I'm going to start putting some up and preserving them, so we'll have them during the winter, whether these new hens lay or not. And it's such an easy process. You have to start with farm eggs. You don't want eggs that have been washed. And if you buy eggs at the grocery store, they have been washed. You can't use them. You're not gonna like it. So just don't do that. But you also need to have clean eggs. So when I keep fresh bedding in the nesting boxes, which helps a lot, you don't want soiled eggs. You don't want them if they've gone to the bathroom around them. You don't want anything on them. But you do not wash these. So I've got clean eggs that have not been washed, so they still have what is called the bloom. And for those of you that don't know, when the hen lays the egg, it has a wet coating on it, and it takes a minute or two at least. I've never timed it. It takes a couple minutes for that to dry, but what happens is that seals the egg. Air getting into the egg is the enemy of the egg, whether it's going to be hatched or whether it's going to be eaten, and it will cause it to go bad faster. So do not wash the eggs. The other reason is if you're using this process and you wash the eggs, they're not going to taste good. So it's just not good. What we're going to be using, it goes by so many names, and I knew most of them, but I'd forgotten some. So I'm going to kind of go over the names because you can find it in a variety of places. It's hydrated lime, which is like, it's sources of lime such as oyster shells, things like that, but they have been heated, then dried, and then moistened. So that's why it's called hydrated lime, but it's also called cal lime. It's called calcium lime, calcium hydroxide, pickling lime, which you've probably seen at the store, builder's lime, and you can find that at your big hardware stores in 50-pound bags, caustic lime, and it's slaked lime or slaked lime. It goes by both. So there's so many different names, but it all comes down to the same thing. It's not the lime you put in your garden because that has not been heated and hydrated. So don't use the gardening lime. That's not going to work. You need calcium hydroxide or cal lime or one of those other names, and I'll try and list those below if I can remember to do that. So as you can see, I have some of the Mrs. Wages here, but I also got some from Azure Standard, and this was a really good price. This is 1 pound, and I'll have to go back, but it's in my Azure Standard haul. I believe it was 2 something for a pound. So to prepare to do this, you have your clean eggs, which I'm going to set out of the way temporarily. Because what we do next is going to help preserve the eggs. So I have a gallon glass jar, but if you have a plastic bucket, and it can be as large or small as you want. I'm going to do it in gallon because it's easier for me to handle. But I think last time I did it in a crock, which also works great. So plastic, glass, crockery, whatever you have needs to be very clean. And I have already washed this jar and dried it. I've got 1.5 quarts of water in here. So here's the formula. You need 1 ounce by weight, and it has to be by weight, of your calcium hydroxide, canning lime, whatever it is. And again, you need a scale. It needs to be weighed out. For every quart of water, you will use 1 ounce by weight of the lime. So let me change this to ounces. And I will tell you, I love this little scale. I've used it for soaping, I've used it for canning, I use it for so many things, and there's a cloud of dust here. So I need 1.5 ounces There we go. I'm going to close that because this powder is just wafting through the air. And you don't want to breathe it. So I have 1.5 ounces. And I'm going to move that out of the way. But again, I love that scale. It is an awesome scale. So 1.5 ounces of the lime, 1.5 ounces of water that I've already got in the jar. And stand back as the dust flies. Now I'm going to mix this up. And I'm just using a whisk. This is the one I bought when I was at Whippoorwill Holler from the Mennonite store, and I love it. It's small. It does a good job in small places, and I'm still getting lots of the dust. Now, this is going to be caustic, so you don't want to put your hands in it too much. I'm going to do it just to put stuff in there, but they won't be in there long. But this is alkaline and it's caustic, so if you're really sensitive, you might want to use a spoon or wear gloves or something to prevent putting your hands in it. And you know what? Let's do that. I'll just use a spoon. That's probably safer. I know it is, but you know, a lot of us do things like that. But again, this is how, way back, and I don't know how far back they did this, but this is how they used to preserve eggs, because they didn't have refrigeration. They might have had a cold storage space, which is helpful with this process too, but they you get a lot of eggs in the spring, and for me it went into this all summer. But when winter comes, usually your hens will stop laying, and that's kind of nature's way of letting them have a rest. And yes, you can force it by having a light on, but sometimes that doesn't work either. So this is a way to preserve another harvest, actually. So I'm just going to keep putting these eggs in here. I'm not sure how many will fit in a gallon, but we're going to find out. And if you need these to stay submerged, because that's what's going to seal them and keep them from getting any air inside. Now, I'm guessing in 1.5 quarts, but I may need to add some as this jar gets fuller, and I'm probably going to need to, but I didn't want to overfill it either. So I'm just going to continue, and if you're putting these in by hand instead of the careful way with a spoon, try and put the narrow end down. And I don't know if you can tell. Let me find a better one. That might be a little bit better. This end is a little bit narrower. By doing this, you have less surface that is an air pocket. So that will keep it fresh longer. And that's how I store them in cartons. That's how I store them all the time, because they do stay safe longer. Yeah, I'm gonna run out of fluid here in a minute. I'm gonna need to add some more, and that's okay. But again, just try and get them in their pointy end down. And I don't know if you can tell, but down here, there's a layer of the lime. So I mixed it up, but it's settled. That's okay. Don't worry about that. Just continue to put your eggs in. So it looks like we'd probably get about 1.5 dozen in this gallon jar. I counted 26 eggs, and these are within the last day or two. Again, you want fresh, you want clean. That one I'm just gonna set in there so I'm gonna mix up probably another 1/2 quart, so another 1/2 ounce. Let me do that, I'll be right back. All right, so this took 2 quarts and about 26 eggs in here. And it's actually kind of fascinating watching the little swirl going around. Squirrel, sidetrack. But it's actually kind of pretty. So you need the eggs to be completely submerged. And you need a cover on it. Mostly to keep anything from getting into it and to prevent evaporation, because if it evaporates, it might go below the top of the eggs, which would not be good. So now I'm just going to write the date. Today is November 4th, 2020. Will this year ever end? It's actually going by fast for me, but it also feels very slow. So I've got the date on here, and I will know how long that they have been in this solution. Now, if I have more room, you can continue to add eggs until it's full. They're gonna be fine no matter what. So you can normally expect at least 8 months staying fresh. And to use them, it's very simple. It's like using fresh eggs. The only difference, and maybe not, because I usually rinse mine before I crack them, is to rinse off the egg. So this is going to sit at room temperature in a cooler, darker spot. That will help preserve them also. But mostly it's just keep them submerged, keep them out of light as much as you can. And if you have somewhere like a basement or a cool closet, that would be a place to keep it. You don't want wild temperature fluctuations, anything like that. So there we go. Hydrated lime eggs, and they will keep, sometimes people have said for 2 years. I haven't done the 2 years. I don't think I even kept them a year, but many people report doing it. They are very close to what you would have with a fresh egg. So I hope you can give this a try, but again, you want farm eggs that are clean and not washed. And if you get these eggs from someone else, be sure and tell them you want them unwashed, because some people will wash them, especially if there's some kind of debris on them. But that takes away that extra seal, and that allows the lime to penetrate the shell. So you don't want that. You won't like it. Well, I hope this was helpful, and I hope it was educational, and I hope you give it a try. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share. But hit that notification bell. I have heard from a number of people that some have been unsubscribed, some have had their notifications turned off. YouTube does funny things sometimes, so go ahead and give that a check down below and see if that has happened to you. Again, thank you for watching. God bless, and we'll talk soon.